Good evening, welcome. Thanks so much for coming. My name is Cameron Bailey. I'm the CEO here at TIFF. I want to welcome you to the world premiere of the new film by Ron Howard, Eden. Thanks so much for coming. When we say world premiere, we mean you are the very first audience on this planet to see Ron Howard's new movie, so glad we can bring this to you. I want to thank some of the people and organizations that make tonight and everything we do at TIFF possible, beginning with our presenting sponsor, Rogers, and our major sponsors, RBC and Visa, for all of their continued support. Yes. We also want to thank our government supporters, the Government of Ontario, Telefilm Canada, and the City of Toronto. No woo for them? Come on. And this film is part of our gala program, which is presented by Dyson. It's also eligible, this film, for TIFF's most important prize. It's the People's Choice Award presented by Rogers. It is decided on by you, the people. So we encourage you to vote for your favorite films. You can do that by going online to tiff.net/vote, and on Sunday you will know who won the prize. We want to thank Amazon Prime Video and AGC Studios and also Creative Artists Agency, CAA, for providing us with this film. Big thanks to the sponsor of tonight's screening and one of our major partners for over 17 years, RBC Royal Bank. Welcome. And on behalf of Dave Mackay, President and CEO of RBC, welcome to all of RBC's guests tonight. We also, go ahead. Very glad to have you here. We also would like to welcome the Consul General of the United States, Mr. Baxter Hunt, and we want to welcome all of you. Probably like many of you, I grew up with and alongside Ron Howard as an actor. You may know he was a child actor, he was a teen actor, he was an adult actor, and of course a director as well. He is one of the most remarkable storytellers that I think Hollywood has produced. In the range of films he's done, whether it's Apollo 13 or Oscar winner A Beautiful Mind, Cinderella Man, Frost Nixon, or Rush, the Formula One film that was premiered here in 2013. What I always find in Ron Howard's films is the power of storytelling, no matter the genre. He shows us the risk, the vulnerability that human beings are willing to put themselves through, and nobody does it quite like him. And I think when you see Eden, you will see him taking another step in a different direction, but bringing that same storytelling power to the screen. We're very pleased that he and his remarkable cast have come to present this to you, and I want to invite them out to introduce Eden. Please join me in welcoming director Ron Howard and the actors Jude Law, Ana de Armas, Daniel Brühl, Sydney Sweeney, and screenwriter Noah Pink.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Well, what a pleasure to be here. What a journey to be here. I first encountered the story that you're about to see in a museum in the Galapagos. And the story was so wild with so many twists and turns that I just honestly could never get it out of my brain. And the more I learned about the story over the years, the more engrossed and entertained I was by it. The events, incredible. The individuals who inhabited this story were truly remarkable, and I realized that is what kept me, desperately wanting to tell this story. I mean, they're just remarkable. They're complex. They're layered. They're contradictory, and it's a real clash of personalities. So that I knew that in order to make this, I'd need a wonderful script that came from Torontonian Noah Pink. A script that would not only deal with the real events in a compelling, dramatic, exciting, entertaining way, but also attract a cast, a remarkable cast. I needed an ensemble who not only had the capacity, but also the creative courage to go to some of the places that these real people had gone to in their lives and in this particular set of events. And I found that with this remarkable cast. And I thank everybody here on the stage for your commitment to this movie. It's beyond anything that I've ever done in many ways, the tone, the style, the feel of this film, and you made so much of that, really all of it, possible, and I thank you for that. And I thank all of you, first of all, for coming to TIFF, for celebrating cinema. Cinema in the way that it's meant to be experienced. And of course, thank you for choosing to experience our film. So with that, I say, you want to go to Eden? Let's go. Okay. Thank you.
Please join me in welcoming to the stage the director of Eden, Ron Howard, and the stars, Jude Law, Sydney Sweeney, Ana de Armas, Daniel Brühl. And the screenwriter, Noah Pink. Thank you so much for this incredible film.
Thank you.
We had some additional drama in the theater, and I want to apologize for that. We did have a medical emergency. One of the audience members had something that had to be tended to right away. So we apologize for that interruption, but we're glad that you stayed. And
any sense of results?
They will be okay.
Okay.
But there was plenty of drama on screen. And that's what I want to talk to you about. A lot of people will know your movies over many, many years, Ron. This feels like a departure for you in terms of tone and the kind of characters that we're dealing with. I don't know if these are bad people or people doing bad things, but tell us about what drew you to this material now.
Well, you're right that for some time, really since Apollo 13, and now as I'm additionally making, documentaries, I'm fascinated by stories based on real events. And but there's no question that in this circumstance, the kinds of choices that the characters feel compelled to make or are forced to make are, much more complex than anything that I've ever dealt with in a film. And yet, to the extent that we can both sort of understand it and fairly easily surmise, what could have happened, this is what these people lived through. And I found it fascinating, and I found it utterly human and surprisingly relatable to human existence today, with all of its foibles, all its quirks, and all the pain and danger as well. And as I said in the opening remarks, I just was drawn toward it. But as I also said, at this point in my life, I look for projects that I think I'm going to have, a great experience making, and I just love challenging scenes for great actors. And I felt it about the story because of who those people were, and then Noah's screenplay confirmed that. And honestly, it was exciting as hell every day, because every day. And by the way, you saw the tone of the movie; it's shifting. Sometimes it's weird, it's weirdly funny, and other times it's just deathly serious. Well, with the schedule, they were doing both. They were like covering all that ground every day, and it was a remarkable thing to see, and it was exciting for me.
So much depends on the cast for a film like this, because you have to get the tone right. It has to feel like they're all on the same page in terms of the pitch that they're at. Sometimes asked to do somewhat extreme or unusual things in the film. How did you put the cast together? And I'm curious for each one of you who were acting in this film, what drew you to the material and to working with Ron? But let's start with you, Ron, in terms of putting the cast together.
Well, even before I committed to making it, even when AGC was saying, yes, we'll support you and we can get this movie made in a viable way. Even then I said, that's great, but only if we really get the cast. And it was a process. Daniel was the first conversation because I had talked to Daniel about the Hines role before. And he was interested. And then, it just the conversations evolved, and I was getting also great feedback from representatives of people, who were exciting. Then I had to look at the windows and the schedules, and I was able to, remarkably get my dream cast, and it was, it was unusual.
Let's start, maybe we'll start with you, Daniel, and we'll work our way down in terms of what brought you to this project, this script, this material, and to working with Ron.
Yeah, well, funnily, it all began here at TIFF, because we had our premiere with Rush, and then Ron was mentioning this project that he wanted to do, and then the first reaction was great. That was reassuring because it meant, okay, he was happy with me. He wants to do another film. But then,
if you haven't
that
seen Rush,
a lot.
Daniel is great in Rush, by the way.
But then, yeah, and the screening was right here, 10, 11 years ago. But then you go like, oh, it's a party, the director's telling you, yeah, we're gonna do another film. So, okay, right. And then so nothing happened. Then 10 years later, I was shooting something in France. I was in Paris. And then this man called me, hey, Daniel, you remember that conversation, TIFF, about the Galapagos film? So I'm doing it. And I thought, incredible. Which also says so much about Ron and how loyal he is that he, yeah. And so when he asked me, I was all in, because I was so thrilled about this story. I knew that another German director wanted to do it like 20 years ago, one that I'd also worked with. So he gave me a book in which it was written down by this director. This book made it to the Galapagos, 1992 or so. So it was in people's minds, in directors' minds a lot. So I did my digging already back then, before Ron had told me about it, and I was fascinated by it.
It is fascinating. Anna?
Well, to me, it was, the fact that this was a true story. I couldn't believe how crazy it is and how relatable it is too, as well, nowadays. I read the script and I told Ron right before going to a wedding. And I think I never saw those people getting married because I was on the phone with Ron. Do you remember that? With the music, I can't hear you. But we talked about the Baroness, and I told him how I felt and all these things that I was already imagining. And it was from day one, there was great communication and back and forth. And I was like, this might be the end of my career. But it looks like fun, so I'm gonna go for it. And I just really fell in love with the character. I thought it was very unique, very special. And
the Baroness has some of the juiciest lines.
By the way, I heard you celebrating. It felt personal. So, well, that's all I have to say.
Means the character worked, that's all.
And I'll just say, Anna is a good character actress because she's nothing like the Baroness in life.
Sydney.
I mean, it's every actor's dream to work with Ron. I grew up loving your films, but being able to work with you, I have just learned what an amazing human being you are. And when Margaret came to me, I was absolutely amazed by, one, it's a true story, and two, it wasn't her choice. And she had to follow her husband's footsteps, and she had no idea what she was getting herself into. She was a child at that. And it was just such a crazy character journey for her and for all the other characters. And I absolutely wanted to dive into it. And with such an amazing cast, I mean, this is like a dream to be able to be a part of. But I'm just really lucky.
I also want to add one thing to what's being said. You asked earlier what attracted me, and I never want to answer this question in an interview because it gives too much away, but now you've seen the movie. No spoilers around, please. But, you know, I love that this intense, some of them brilliant, all motivated people, they came together with an agenda. And it is that question of, you know, who's going to survive and why. And as dark as the story is, as bizarre as the story is, I love that what we prove is that survival of the fittest is connected to love. It is connected to a belief in family. That's the people who draw strength from that in this story prevail. They are the survivors, and that thematically means something to me.
So even with all of these people, there is an uplifting message in there.
It's a family story.
Somewhere.
I mean, Parenthood, Eden. I mean, don't you see it?
Double bill. Jude, a magnificent, outrageous performance of a magnificent, outrageous character. And I'm curious to ask the same question, but also your role, your character, probably required a little bit more audacity, perhaps, in terms of the performance and some of the things that your character does. But can you talk about what drew you?
Wow, I don't know about that. I think we all had to be audacious.
Yes.
What were you going to say?
Well, what drew you to the role, and what did it take to actually do some of the things that we see your character do?
You mean walk around naked?
I mean, among other things.
Screens for paparazzi.
Well, I mean, to second what everyone said, the opportunity to work with Ron, we knew we were in safe hands, and it was this extraordinary script, these incredible characters, and there was something really enticing about being in an ensemble. They don't come along very often. And there's this lovely sense at the beginning where with the director and the writer where you all kind of look at each other and we're all going, are we going to do, how far are we going to go? Are we going to push each other? And it's a lovely, fluid and it's a game of chance in a way and trust, for actors in that situation because we're all carrying our own element, our own thread. And so you're watching each other and reading how the others are attacking the tones and the different barometers, I suppose, the barometer of the piece. And obviously Rita, like I think everyone, had just so much to explore. And I loved, for me, the personal challenge was trying to find some kind of movement in his rigidity. He was a stubborn man and a kind of brilliant man who didn't want to be moved, didn't want to be bent, didn't want to give, and yet did somehow, perhaps more than most, in that he potentially took a life. That was really at the heart of what I loved, or was at the heart of the challenge. That and the nudity, and having my teeth pulled out.
Yes. I think there might be some memes that come out of this film, so not encouraging it, but it's there. Noah, can I just ask you, this is a story that feels like it's fiction because it's so crazy in some ways, but this is a real story that happened. And I wonder, as you're writing the screenplay for this, it's a fictional version, but it's based on real events, how are you calibrating that element in terms of the fictionalizing something that happened?
Yeah, I mean, the surprising thing about this story is that more is true about it than you would ever believe. I mean,
It's really hard to believe.
it's really hard to believe, but we went there because it happened. We weren't actually going, for the gore. We weren't going for the laughs. It's like that happened, and so the challenge really was, how do we get there in an emotionally true way? So my way into the script was really from an emotional perspective. Like personally, I think we all sometimes question our existence and why we're here and what our purpose is. And I think what was so interesting to me is that there's these three groups who have three very different outlooks on why they're here on Earth. And that's just like juicy drama. And so that was kind of like my original way in. And then obviously when this amazing cast and, talking to Ron over literally 5 years, it evolved into, creating, really interesting and complex characters. But at the end of the day, like Ron and I talked about this a lot, like we kind of root for everyone in this movie, even though they're doing insane things. Like they're coming from a place of emotional truth or damage, but we connected to them at least.
Certainly empathy for everybody. I mean, I think I hope you can understand, what is driving everybody. And by the way, I mean, look, go online. The real Hancock of Hancock Park shot a lot of footage, and you can find it online, and it's fascinating. And if you delve into the story, could have even been crazier than the way we presented it. There are other twists and turns where we didn't go down those avenues that were also rumored or reported. And so it was a fascinating journey to sort of get at this, the surmise, the sort of the narrative we were going to present, and again, just endlessly fascinating, and frankly, a lot of fun.
Oh, great. Listen, thank you so much for bringing this film for its world premiere to Toronto, and I'm so thrilled to have you all here to present it. And congratulations on continuing to really just push yourself as a storyteller as well. Really loved it. Noah Pink, Daniel Brühl, Ana de Armas, Sydney Sweeney, Jude Law, and director Ron Howard. Thanks so much for coming tonight.
Thanks for all your support. Thank you.
Thank you.